Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mandy and I am the owner and curator of Brick Road Co., which is an online clothing boutique focused primarily on the app Poshmark. So thank you all for joining in today, and for those of you who are new to my channel, if you like what you see after taking a peek at my video, please don't be afraid to comment down below with what you liked or didn't like. And also don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. I would much appreciate if you subscribe to my channel. And if you're so interested as to getting notifications when I upload new videos, feel free to hit the bell notification button, and that will send you an email every time I upload a new video. I usually upload videos on Wednesday or Thursday of every week, so you can always stay tuned to my videos, to my channel, and pop in middle of the week every week, and I should have a new video uploaded for you. So today we are going to talk about how to create a side hustle by selling online through Poshmark or eBay, or whichever platform you would like to use, or all of them, and how to get started doing that in 2020. So I do know, being a reseller and looking through YouTube videos myself, that there is a lot of information out there, but sometimes you find it's a little bit dated, and I find that because the apps are constantly changing and there are new trends and new, changes to algorithms, that it's really good to stay fresh. And so going into 2020, going into a new year, I thought, what better way to do that than to share what I have discovered as a reseller to be some of the best ways to get started growing your business as a side hustle. And then of course, if you want to transition into full-time, I will be talking about that at a later date. So I will be referencing a few of my older videos throughout this video as far as some little tips and tricks. So feel free to reference those. Take a peek through all my videos, and I do offer a lot of 5-minute tips which will help guide you through the overall process that we are going to talk about today. So welcome back for those of you who have been watching for a while. This is going to be probably refresher information for you, but for those of you who are getting started with a side hustle, you're really interested in building that side hustle in 2020, and you just really don't know where to get started, I want to help you with that. So I'm going to walk you through step by step how I feel would be the easiest, most streamlined way to start a side hustle selling things online on Poshmark, eBay, Mercari, etc. in 2020.
In 2020.
For those of you who are old enough to remember Barbara Walters and 2020, my parents used to do that all the time. They used to do the Saturday Night Live skit when I was a little girl, and I still remember it, and I still think of it when I hear that. I'll walk you through what I think are the most streamlined steps as far as starting a side hustle in 2020. And of course, if you have any questions about any of this, holler down below. I'm always happy to answer questions. And if you follow me over on Instagram, send me a DM. I have a lot of people who will DM me and ask me random questions, what they think is the best process for shipping, or, poly mailers, or anything really, and I'm there to help. So I want you to succeed and be as excited about reselling as I am as a full-time reseller. So whether you are looking at potentially growing this into a full-time endeavor, or you really just want some extra money, which is how I started doing Poshmark, this is a great video to help you do that. So number one would be, you need to gather inventory. So before you even get started on the thought of selling things, the best thing to do would be to gather inventory. And so if you don't have a lot of money to start this up, and the reason that you're doing this is because you need money, that is exactly how I started this. So I started selling Poshmark I joined in 2013, but I really started selling in about 2015. The major catalyst for me was to pay off medical bills at that time. But then once I got an immediate set of medical bills paid off from a surgery of mine and of my husband's, then I started taking that money and putting it into like fun money savings. What I did was, even if we were struggling, as far as month to month, as long as our monthly bills were paid, I had a set aside fund in a different account that we just didn't touch, that became money for us to enjoy life and celebrate a little bit, even throughout our struggles. So we adopted my Jack Russell Terrier Rudy with Poshmark side hustle money. We went on a trip to Mexico, largely funded by Poshmark money. we funded a trip to Disneyland with Poshmark sales money. So it has provided us a lot of traveling opportunities, and it gave me my best friend Rudy. I don't know why I'm pointing over here because he's not over here, but he's usually sitting on this little bed over here. It gave me my best friend. So I'm really excited to share my knowledge with you. And if you decide to branch into this full time after some time, then I'm your girl. I'm happy to help you with what that transition might look like too. So I just want to point out that I am wearing a shirt that was Posh, and I cannot remember the seller's name, but it is super cute and I love it. So I'm excited about that. Poshmark for the win. It's American Eagle, and I think I paid all of like $7 for it, but so cute. So I started as a side hustle, and what I did was I gathered all of the stuff that both of my daughters were outgrowing and things that I no longer wanted in my own closet. And that gave me roughly about 100 items to get my Poshmark Closet started with. And then additionally, I asked a few family members and friends who were very, very close to me if they had any items that they wanted to donate to me to get my closet started. And at that point, I was not picky with brand, style, size, or anything. I really just wanted to get my closet started. So initially, my closet was a lot of younger girls' clothing, children's place, justice, a lot of dance stuff, a lot of soccer stuff for both of my girls, and then some of my clothing that I didn't want anymore. And then I slowly started building onto that inventory. And then what I did is just did an initial batch of clothing that I had from a corporate job that I was no longer working, clothing that I had from when I weighed a vastly different weight. I had some maternity clothes that I was still holding on to for some reason. And then again, some of the stuff that my daughters had outgrown. So that was a really good start for me. And I believe my first Poshmark sale was a pair of jazz shoes of my daughters. And I think my second one were a pair of Merrill tennis shoes, also of my daughters. And they didn't sell for a lot, but they gave me like that, ooh, I can do this. I've got, like, people are buying my stuff, so I'm gonna keep going. So you can keep accumulating inventory for free or for cheap by doing that. And then once you're ready to start sourcing throughout different methods, then you can kind of dig deeper into how to get inventory. But initially, if you're really just wanting to start up quickly, easily, and free, go through your house. Ask your friends and family, ask your neighbors, ask for donations. January is a really good time of year to do that. So last year about this time, I hopped on my Facebook, and I do this every January. I say, hey, if you're clearing out clutter, just don't forget that I will do consignment, and I also take donations if you don't want to donate to the local Goodwill or ARC thrift stores. And I have been able to accumulate quite a bit of inventory doing that. So as a side note, you can offer consignment, but I don't recommend that jumping in at the beginning. Once you've gathered all of your items, you need to make sure that you prep the items. So make sure that they're clean. They are free of animal hair, human hair, any lint. Check them over for stains or damages. And that doesn't mean you can't list them. Just make note of that. Make sure items are not wrinkly and they're presentable for the photography piece of this, because that will be very important to you down the line. So prep your items, get them hung up or laying flat somewhere so they're ready for your actual starting of your listing process. And then what you're going to do once you have cleaned and prepped all of your items, gotten them ready, and that looks different for everyone, so I will be posting a future video on what I do to clean and prep my items before I list them, so stay tuned for a future video on that. But then what you're going to want to do next is make sure that you have all of the apps downloaded that you are thinking of selling on. So for me, when I first started, I just started selling it on Poshmark, and that was plenty enough for me as a side hustle to get started. But some people do dive in right away with cross-posting, even as a side hustle, and they will post on several platforms. I currently sell the majority of my items on Poshmark, eBay, Etsy, Facebook Marketplace, and sometimes Mercari. I don't know, I'm kind of hit and miss with Mercari, but I do list my items on there. So pick a platform, download that. If you want to do multiple platforms, I highly recommend starting out by using the same username for all of your platforms and coming up with a unified name across all of your platforms, so that way people can identify you easily. And if you decide to add in social media later, you can use that same name. So let's say you start by downloading Posh, you set everything up, you've got all of your information set to go. What I recommend doing next is just going through that app and learning about the app. Depending on what platform you decide to sell on, let's say you want to sell on Facebook Marketplace, I recommend doing like a 1-week deep dive into whatever you're doing. Just get to know people that are active on that app, get to know the ins and outs of the app, ask questions, DM people, just really try to understand how the process works before you even get started, and that will help you really fly through things, I think, a lot more quickly once you get your closet up and going. So after you've gathered and prepped all of your items, platforms and you've downloaded the app and you're ready to go, you need to find a nice well-lit area that doesn't really need to be more than about 3 feet by 3 feet wide, where you can take your photographs for your listings. So you can see the white wall behind me, which I find to be very easy to use. I've got a hook up above me and I use this white wall for just about everything that needs a background. It's been tremendously helpful. However, I've lived in multiple locations while I've been poshing because we sold a home and we were in temporary housing and while we were building our home. So I do know what it looks like to operate in very small spaces and on the go, and now in a more roomy space. I can recommend several things that you can utilize for your space for photography to keep your white background. You can use a white wall. You can use a white poster board or several white poster boards from the dollar store. In a pinch, I've even used like a white door. I do have a prior video, 5-minute tips on several different backdrops that are either cheap or free that you can use for your Poshmark sales or eBay or whatnot. So take a peek at that. For right now, for me, the easiest thing to do is to use the white wall, and then I use an app called Snapseed to finish some editing. I've also got a 5-minute tip on how to use Snapseed, which is a Google app that you can use on your phone, and it will take away like this shadow that you see behind me. I could essentially brush that completely out, so it's a nice crisp white background. So let's say I just wanted to take a picture of this sweater. I could come in with Snapseed and get all of this out. I could even take this out and this out of my frame and just be left with a beautiful shirt with shaggy hair in the middle of it if I wanted to. There are several apps that you can utilize to edit those pictures, but I think what's most important when you go to take pictures is to make sure you're in a well-lit area with nothing distracting in the background. You use a white background or a really bright background, and then edit your pictures with photo editing if you feel like it needs to be a little bit more crisp and clear. And make sure that you have one really high quality photo that you can utilize for what's called the cover photo. Depending on what app you decide to go with, you need to take 8 to 12 pictures. So I recommend taking 12 pictures of everything, and that way got a good set of photos. Poshmark allows 8 photos, eBay allows 10, I believe, and Mercari allows 10. Use all of your photo spaces and make sure they're crisp and clear. Take photos of the labels, or not the labels, the tags, the care tags. Often customers want to know the materials and the contents, or like what a shoe is made of or the heel height. So just make sure you take as many pictures as possible of your items. And then prior to listing your items, you're going to want to make sure that you check what are called comps. So basically what you're doing is you're going through either eBay or Poshmark, and you are now familiar with that app because I told you to get familiar with it, right? Wink, wink. What you're gonna do is you're gonna filter through what has sold on that app, and you're gonna filter through items that are the same or similar to what you're selling. And so you can search for the item and then use your filter keys to filter down to a similar item, maybe even in the same color or a different color. By looking at the solds, then you can get a really good idea on what is a fair market value for your item and a good starting point for your item. So when it comes to pricing your items, Poshmark has a lot of different sales strategies, and so without delving into that too deeply, what you need to know is often you can price your Poshmark a little bit higher than what you anticipate getting. This accounts for the 20% cut that Posh gets, and also for the other incentives for sales, such as closet clear out, price drops, and whatnot that we can talk about at a later, more in detailed time. I typically price my Poshmark items a little bit higher than I do my Mercari or my eBay items. But I utilize an app called Sellhound, and what I do is search the item within that app, Sellhound, and it will actually pull up comps for you, current items for sale and sold on various websites. So I find that to be the fastest, most comprehensive way to quickly check what price might be a good price point for me to start listing my items on Poshmark. Now, of course, when I started on Poshmark, I did not price comps. I just gave what I thought was like a third of new retail value, and that worked okay, but I think that what people fail to account for is supply and demand and trends. So like Lululemon often used will go for a little bit higher than a third of retail value, but there's other items that actually go for less than that. So by checking comps, you will start to get an understanding of some of the desirable brands. You'll see what's oversaturated maybe on one platform versus another. So if you're trying to figure out, and you're selling on multiple platforms, you're trying to figure out, well, how should I price this? If it's really saturated on one platform, you may have to price it a bit lower than another and kind of weigh your options. So run the comps, get a feel for what the market value is for the items, because no two Free People items are the same, no two Levi's are the same. By checking comps, you learn about the differences, why things might make you more or less money even within one brand. So very, very important to check comps before you actually list the items. After you've done all of that, you're actually ready to sit down and get down to the actual listing of your item. So I am one that includes measurements in my listings. Not every reseller recommends it, and not every reseller does it. I recommend putting measurements in for two different reasons. Number one, as a buyer, I will not buy without measurements because I have a very long inseam, I have a very skinny waist, and I have a larger bust for my waist and ribcage size. So I really depend on measurements to know if I'm going to be putting in any alterations into an item and if it will fit me properly. So that is reason number one that I think measurements are important to include in your listings. Reason number two is because
Oh my god, I just lost my train of thought. I hate when I do that.
it will eliminate questions being asked. So a lot of people will come back and ask you questions about the measurements, and then you have to go retrieve the item, measure it, come back and answer it, and it's a pain in the butt. So I'd rather just have the most pertinent measurements on my listing before I even get it listed on there. So my little asterisk saying prior to listing, I measure, you can choose whether or not you want to include that optional step prior to listing your items on Poshmark. Depending on whether or not you've measured, can insert that step here. Then you're actually going to sit down and physically list your item. So you have multiple options within all of the different platforms as far as what you need to fill out for the item. Some platforms require a little bit more details about your items that you're selling than others. But for the most part, you're going to need the brand, the size, whether it's new or used, men's or women's, color, condition, and then you have a description box. And so the two most important pieces for you to know about are the title box and the description box. So make sure you utilize all of the characters within the title box and that you're putting a very full, adequate title in your title box. So include the brand, any descriptive pieces about that clothing or accessory or home goods item, colors, and then in the description, repeat your title and then add additional information. Be sure to thoroughly describe the item, including any flaws that it might have to avoid any returns or unexpected surprises or buyer's remorse. Again, I include measurements, but it's totally up to you. So what you're going to do is you're going to go through the prompts to list each of your items one by one and make sure you proofread each of those. You're going to upload your photos and then list them within your closet. Yay! So you've got things listed. Now what? In the meantime, while you're going through listing your items and you're anxiously awaiting your first sale, you can go to the US Postal Service website and go into their store and sort by free postal supplies, and you can order some free USPS boxes. I will be doing a video, a 5-minute tip on my 5 favorite USPS boxes that I use most frequently for my Poshmark sales and their little numbers and how to actually order that through the postal site at a later date. Stay tuned for that. If you have any questions about that process, don't hesitate to ask. I'm happy to help. What I would say the essential shipping supplies for just getting started would be a lint roller so you can clean up your item prior to putting it in a shipment box. Packing tape, poly mailers or free USPS boxes, a printer or access to a printer and paper for printing your labels, and then thank you cards, which you could even print out on a piece of paper or handwrite if you needed to. And that is essentially it. So as long as you have a way to take your pictures, you have a few things to take pictures of that are desirable that people want, and you have some basic shipping supplies, you can really get started with a pretty adequate side hustle. And it's kind of exciting when you get your first sale and you see this extra money come rolling in that you could pay a debt off with, you could rescue a dog with, you could make a home improvement. Maybe you want to buy, like a small little toy, like a boat or an RV, whatever your heart desires. And even if you work full time, this is an attainable goal. And I was a person who did that. Just know that reselling and making money on Poshmark and eBay is not something that has to be a huge endeavor. It is work, but it does not have to be a full-time job. It can absolutely be a side hustle and something that helps you rake in some extra cash. Both my daughters actually do this for a side hustle, and though it doesn't provide them with an astronomical amount of money, their closets are building slowly and they are starting to see more sales come in. So it was kind of exciting for them to be able to use some Posh money and, you know, shop for themselves on Poshmark. I think my oldest bought a wildflower phone case that she's wanted forever. She bought that with her own Posh earnings. So even high schoolers can do this, and that is totally possible. Some of the optional, I'm digressing, but some of the optional shipping supplies that you can have on hand would be like a gallon Ziploc bag. Sometimes people put their items in plastic anti-suffocation bags, or there's something called bread bags with twist ties at Walmart, and they come in like 100 pack for like $3. Those are pretty useful as well for getting started. That's what I did for quite some time. You can also use tissue paper, you can use ribbon, or you can just throw it in a USPS box and hope for the best. So it really is up to your personal flair how you want to go about packaging up your sales from that point on. But when I was doing it part-time, I was trying to use up a lot of my excess scrapbooking supplies for the move. So I made cute little scrapbooking thank you cards and tied it with ribbon. Now I'm more of a bulk seller, so I have everything pre-bagged in inventory bags, and I usually just throw a thank you card on top of that. So it's really up to how you personally want to do that. Poshmark is more of a like presentation type of thing as far as packaging. It's certainly encouraged but not required. Then eBay, I've seen things shipped every which way but Sunday on eBay, and same with Mercari. So I think both of those are kind of a crapshoot. You never know. You could get a really professionally mailed package, or you could get something in a cereal box that's like barely hanging on when it gets there. So that's kind of up to the seller. Then let's see, the last but not least is sell your shit. Sell your stuff. So when your items do sell, make sure that I'm just gonna say personal preference, make sure you ship those out as soon as possible. But I think Poshmark gives you actually 7 days to ship it out. eBay, it depends on what handling time you set up when you start, and I cannot remember what Mercari's guidelines are. However, make sure once you start listing things on the app that you're checking daily for offers, for communication from buyers. I think this is really one of the places where things fall short with Poshmark for people who are doing it part-time, is they just set it and forget it, and they think that that's gonna work. If you want that business model for a side hustle, I would highly recommend eBay as opposed to Poshmark. Poshmark has more of a social element to it, so you're going to need to be interacting on it regularly, even if you are a part-time posher. So it's going to have a more time demand as far as the social aspect of it in order to make sales. So do understand that component prior to jumping into Poshmark, that with eBay, you can list something, forget about it, and not really have much as far as corresponding. Poshmark, I am on there multiple times a day talking to people, answering to offers, and there's just a lot more interaction going on within that app. So be mindful of that as you're getting started. And if you have any questions, if you have any feedback for me, please let me know. I would love to help out in any way that I can. And I just want to see as many people enjoy sustainable clothing and saving money, making a side hustle in the process. So please don't forget to check out my Instagram page for more tips and tricks. I've got a TikTok account as well. Feel free to check that out for some more tips that I do in shorter snippets and some reseller humor. I love TikTok, it's great. I have linked all of my accounts down below, so feel free to interact with me on any of those. Leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up if you liked this, and stay tuned for my next video. I hope you guys have a wonderful new year. We will be celebrating probably by doing nothing. I'm assuming the hubby and I will just barely try to stay up until midnight and then welcome in 2020 with as much excitement and enthusiasm as possible. So I wish nothing but the best for everybody. I hope you have a happy reseller journey, and if you're just getting started, welcome to the community. I love, love, love helping out new people, especially young entrepreneurs. So hit me up on Poshmark. You'll find me under the handle Brick Road Co. everywhere you go. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Bye.